Millionaire's baby wouldn't stop crying on the plane. For 4 straight hours, every passenger had been subjected to the most ear-piercing screams you could imagine. Marcus Thompson, worth over $12 billion, was facing the most humiliating moment of his life as hostile stares burned into his back and fellow passengers whispered complaints. He had tried everything, but nothing worked, until a poor boy showed up and did something unbelievable. Marcus Thompson's hands were shaking as he held his 8-month-old daughter Lily, her piercing screams echoing through the first-class cabin of Flight 785 bound for Miami. The 38-year-old tech mogul, worth over $12 billion, had never felt more helpless in his entire life. For the past 4 hours, every single passenger on this Boeing 7 had been subjected to Lily's relentless crying, and Marcus could feel the hostile stares burning into his back like laser beams. He had tried absolutely everything his mind could think of, walking the narrow aisles while bouncing Lily gently, offering her multiple bottles that she violently rejected, changing her diaper 3 times in the cramped airplane bathroom, and even playing soft jazz music through his expensive noise-canceling headphones pressed against her tiny ears. Nothing worked. Absolutely nothing. The flight attendants had offered their suggestions with increasingly strained smiles, but their professional advice fell flat against Lily's determination to express her discomfort to the entire aircraft. The other first-class passengers were making their displeasure crystal clear. The elderly woman in seat 2B kept dramatically sighing and checking her diamond-encrusted watch every 30 seconds. The businessman across the aisle was typing aggressively on his laptop, clearly unable to concentrate on his work. Even the flight crew seemed to be running out of patience, their earlier sympathy replaced by barely concealed frustration. Marcus felt his face burning with embarrassment as he realized that all his wealth and success meant absolutely nothing when it came to comforting his own daughter. That's when something completely unexpected happened that would change everything. A young voice from the back of the plane cut through Lily's wails like a knife through butter. A teenage boy, maybe 15 or 16 years old, was walking up the aisle toward Marcus with quiet determination in his eyes. His clothes were obviously second-hand but clean, his sneakers worn but carefully maintained, and his backpack looked like it had seen better days. What struck Marcus most was the complete confidence in the boy's posture, as if he knew exactly what he was doing. But Marcus had no idea that this chance encounter was about to reveal a story so incredible, so unexpected, that it would challenge everything he thought he knew about worth, compassion, and what it truly means to help someone in need. And neither of them knew that what happened next would create a bond that would change both their lives forever. "Excuse me, sir," the teenager said softly, his voice somehow carrying over Lily's screams. "I think I might be able to help with your baby." Marcus looked up at this young stranger with a mixture of desperation and skepticism. The boy appeared to be around 15 years old, with kind brown eyes and an earnest expression that seemed far too mature for his age. His name tag from a local community center in Detroit was still pinned to his worn jacket reading, "Hello, my name is Kevin." Marcus hesitated for a moment, glancing around at the disapproving faces of his fellow first-class passengers. Here was a kid from economy class, obviously from a completely different world than his own, offering to help with something that trained nannies and pediatric specialists had failed to accomplish. But Lily's crying was reaching new levels of intensity, and Marcus was so exhausted and desperate that he was willing to try anything, even accepting help from a complete stranger. "I don't know what you could possibly do that I haven't already tried," Marcus said, his voice strained with fatigue. "She's been crying for 4 straight hours and nothing seems to work." Kevin stepped closer, his movements calm and deliberate despite the chaos around them. There was something about his presence that seemed to radiate confidence and compassion, qualities that Marcus found both surprising and reassuring in someone so young. "My little brother had really severe colic when he was a baby," Kevin explained quietly, his voice steady and professional. "I spent months learning different techniques to help him. Sometimes babies cry like this because they have trapped gas or they're overstimulated by too much movement and noise. There are specific ways to hold them and pressure points that can help release the discomfort." Marcus found himself studying this remarkable teenager with growing curiosity, wondering what other surprises this young man might have in store. But what Marcus didn't know was that Kevin was carrying secrets that would shock him to his core. This wasn't just any teenager offering casual help with a crying baby. Kevin was on his way to something that would reveal just how extraordinary this chance encounter really was. and why this moment was destined to become one of the most important experiences of both their lives. Without waiting for permission, Kevin gently reached toward Lily with the confidence of someone who had done this countless times before. "May I show you a technique that worked for my brother?" he asked respectfully. Marcus nodded weakly, too tired to question this unexpected offer of help. The moment Kevin's hands made contact with Lily, something that seemed almost impossible began to happen. Her screaming started to diminish, slowly but noticeably, as Kevin positioned her in a way that Marcus had never seen before. Kevin held Lily against his chest in a specific angle, supporting her head with one hand while applying gentle, rhythmic pressure along her spine with the other. Babies with colic often have digestive issues that create painful gas bubbles, Kevin explained softly as he worked. This position helps release the pressure while the back massage stimulates their digestive system to move things along. Marcus watched in complete amazement as Lily's desperate wails gradually transformed into soft whimpers, then into quiet hiccups, and finally into blessed silence. The entire first-class cabin seemed to hold its breath as passengers realized what was happening. The elderly woman in seat 2B stopped checking her watch and stared in open-mouthed wonder. The businessman across the aisle paused his typing and looked up with genuine admiration. Even the flight attendants gathered nearby, witnessing what appeared to be a minor miracle unfolding before their eyes. Kevin began humming a gentle melody that Marcus had never heard before, and Lily's eyes, which had been squeezed shut in distress for hours, slowly opened and focused on Kevin's face. "Where on earth did you learn that song?" Marcus whispered, afraid that speaking too loudly might break whatever spell Kevin had cast over his daughter. Kevin smiled warmly as he continued the soft back massage that was keeping Lily calm and content. "My grandmother taught it to me when I was helping with my baby brother," he replied. "She said it was a lullaby that her own grandmother sang to her when she was little. Sometimes the old ways work better than all the modern techniques." Marcus felt his entire world shifting as he realized that this teenager had accomplished something that professional childcare experts couldn't achieve. But what shocked Marcus even more was what he was beginning to notice about this remarkable young man who had just performed what seemed like a miracle with his daughter. As Kevin continued to hold Lily, who was now gurgling contentedly in his arms, Marcus began to observe details about this extraordinary teenager that left him speechless. Kevin's backpack was covered with academic achievement patches from various science competitions, and through the partially open zipper, Marcus could see notebooks filled with complex mathematical equations and scientific diagrams. There was an intelligence in Kevin's eyes that seemed far beyond his 15 years, and the way he explained infant physiology suggested a level of scientific understanding that was truly remarkable. "Kevin, right?" Marcus said, reading the name tag on the boy's jacket. "Tell me about yourself. Are you traveling alone?" Kevin nodded as he gently transferred the now peaceful Lily back to Marcus's arms, maintaining the same supportive position that had worked so effectively. "Yes, sir. I'm flying to Miami for the National Science Fair Championship. I qualified by winning the state competition in Michigan with my project on pediatric medicine and infant health research." Marcus felt his jaw drop as he processed this information. This wasn't just any helpful teenager. This was a scientific prodigy whose research focus explained exactly why he had been able to calm Lily so effectively. "What kind of research are you doing in pediatric medicine?" Marcus asked, his curiosity now fully engaged. Kevin's face lit up with enthusiasm as he began to explain his work, his passion for the subject evident in every word. Before revealing what Kevin answered, hit that like button right now. And tell me in the comments, what would you do if a stranger offered to help you in a moment of desperation like this? Kevin pulled out a worn notebook from his backpack and showed Marcus pages of detailed research on infant colic, digestive disorders, and natural treatment methods. "I've been studying why some babies experience severe digestive issues and developing non-pharmaceutical interventions that parents can use at home," Kevin explained with scientific precision. Marcus realized he wasn't just talking to a smart teenager. He was speaking with a young medical researcher whose work could potentially help thousands of families dealing with colicky babies. But what Marcus was about to discover about Kevin's background and the circumstances that brought him to this flight would reveal a story of determination and sacrifice that would change everything he thought he knew about opportunity and privilege. "Kevin, how is a 15-year-old conducting advanced pediatric research?" Marcus asked, genuinely fascinated by this young man's accomplishments. Kevin's expression became more serious as he explained his unconventional path to scientific recognition. My baby brother Tyler was born with severe colic that lasted for months. Our family couldn't afford to take him to specialists or buy expensive treatments, so I started researching everything I could find about infant digestive disorders. Kevin continued his explanation with the kind of detailed knowledge that would impress medical professionals. I spent over a year studying pediatric gastroenterology, interviewing local doctors who were willing to help, and experimenting with different natural treatments. Eventually, I developed a combination of techniques that completely eliminated Tyler's symptoms. When I presented my findings at the regional science fair, several pediatricians asked me to document my methods for other families. Marcus was beginning to understand that Kevin's scientific achievements weren't just academic exercises. They were born from real-world necessity and a determination to solve problems that affected his own family. "So your research project for the National Science Fair is based on your work with your brother?" Marcus asked. Kevin nodded enthusiastically, pulling out a thick research portfolio that looked incredibly professional for a high school student. "I've documented case studies from 25 families in my neighborhood who tried my techniques," Kevin explained. "The success rate has been over 90% for babies with colic symptoms. My project is titled Natural Interventions for Infant Digestive Disorders, a community-based research study. If I place in the top 3 at nationals, I'll receive a full scholarship to any university I choose." Marcus felt a profound respect growing for this remarkable teenager, but he was also beginning to sense that there was much more to Kevin's story. The worn condition of his clothes, the way he carefully handled his research materials, and his mention of families in his neighborhood who couldn't afford medical specialists suggested a background of financial struggle that made his achievements even more impressive. "Kevin, tell me about your family and how you're funding this trip to Miami," Marcus said gently, sensing that this might be a sensitive topic. Kevin's expression showed a mixture of pride and vulnerability as he began to share his personal story. "I live with my mom, my grandmother, and my 3 younger siblings in Detroit. My mom works 2 jobs as a nurse's aide to support our family, and my grandmother takes care of the kids during the day." Kevin paused to check on Lily, who was sleeping peacefully in Marcus's arms, before continuing his story. "When I qualified for the National Science Fair, we realized that the trip to Miami would cost almost $1,500 for flights, hotel, and registration fees. That's more than our family spends on groceries in 2 months. Marcus felt his heart breaking as he imagined the financial pressure this achievement had placed on Kevin's family. "How did you manage to make the trip?" Marcus asked, though he suspected the answer would reveal even more about this extraordinary young man's character and community. Kevin's face brightened with gratitude as he explained the incredible support he had received. "Our entire neighborhood came together to raise money for my trip. The local barber shop organized a fund drive. Our church held bake sales every Sunday for 2 months, and neighbors who could barely afford their own bills donated whatever they could. But before we continue, drop a comment below telling me about a time when your community came together to help someone achieve their dreams." Kevin pulled out a small notebook where he had carefully recorded every single donation, no matter how small. "Mrs. Rodriguez from down the street gave me $5 from her Social Security check. The teenagers who work at the corner store pooled their tips to contribute $23. Even the kids in my neighborhood had a lemonade stand to help raise money for my trip." Marcus realized that Kevin wasn't just carrying his own dreams to Miami. He was carrying the hopes and investment of an entire community that believed in his potential. But what Marcus was about to learn about the pressure Kevin was feeling would reveal why this science fair competition meant so much more than just academic recognition. "Kevin, that's an incredible amount of pressure to carry," Marcus observed, recognizing the weight of responsibility that must be resting on this teenager's shoulders. Kevin nodded thoughtfully, his maturity evident in how he processed the expectations surrounding his trip. "Everyone in my neighborhood is counting on me to succeed. They've invested their hard-earned money in my education because they believe I can make it out and eventually come back to help other kids like me." Kevin's voice became more intense as he described his long-term goals. "If I win this science fair and get a full scholarship, I'll be the first person in my family to attend college. But more than that, I want to become a pediatric researcher who develops affordable treatments for families who can't access expensive medical care. I want to prove that brilliant solutions can come from anywhere, not just from wealthy research institutions." Marcus was struck by the incredible vision and social consciousness that Kevin possessed at such a young age. This wasn't just about personal achievement. Kevin was thinking about systemic change and using his talents to benefit the community that had supported him. What happens if you don't place in the top 3? Marcus asked gently, knowing this was probably Kevin's greatest fear. Kevin's expression showed a flicker of vulnerability before he composed himself. Then I go back to Detroit and figure out another way to pay for college. My mom always says that there's more than one path to every destination, and I believe that. But I also know that this opportunity might be my best chance to really make a difference. Kevin looked down at his worn notebook filled with research that represented months of dedicated work. Marcus felt a deep admiration for this young man's resilience and determination. But he was also beginning to formulate an idea that could change Kevin's life in ways neither of them could imagine. However, first Marcus needed to understand more about Kevin's research and why it was so revolutionary. Kevin, can you explain your research findings in simple terms? Marcus asked, genuinely interested in understanding the scientific work that had earned Kevin national recognition. Kevin's eyes lit up as he began describing his methodology with the passion of a true researcher. Traditional treatments for infant colic focus on medication or expensive equipment, but my research proves that simple pressure point techniques combined with specific holding positions can be just as effective. Kevin opened his research portfolio and showed Marcus detailed diagrams and charts documenting his findings. I discovered that applying gentle pressure to 3 specific points along a baby's spine, combined with a particular angle of support, helps release trapped gas and stimulates proper digestive function. The success rate in my community study was 92%, which is higher than many pharmaceutical interventions. Marcus was impressed by the professional quality of Kevin's documentation and the practical implications of his research. Have any medical professionals reviewed your work? He asked. Kevin nodded enthusiastically, pulling out several letters of recommendation from local pediatricians. Dr. Sarah Martinez at Detroit Children's Hospital has been mentoring me for the past 6 months. She says my research could potentially help thousands of families avoid expensive treatments and emergency room visits. Tell me in the comments, have you ever seen a young person with this level of dedication and scientific thinking? Kevin continued explaining how he had documented every case study with careful attention to variables like feeding schedules, environmental factors, and family stress levels. The beauty of my approach is that it requires no special equipment or expensive medications. Any parent can learn these techniques and apply them immediately when their baby is experiencing colic symptoms. Marcus realized that Kevin's research wasn't just academically impressive. It represented a practical solution to a problem that affected millions of families worldwide, especially those who couldn't afford specialized medical care. But what Marcus was about to propose would reveal just how much this chance encounter was going to change both their lives. Kevin, I want to ask you something important, Marcus said, his mind racing with possibilities as he looked at this remarkable teenager who had just demonstrated the real-world application of his research on Lily. Kevin looked curious, but slightly cautious, unsure what this wealthy businessman might be thinking. I'm the CEO of Thompson Medical Technologies, a company that develops innovative healthcare solutions. What you've just shown me with your research and practical skills is exactly what the medical industry needs. Kevin's eyes widened as he processed what Marcus was saying. You work in medical technology? He asked, clearly surprised by this revelation. Marcus nodded, feeling a growing excitement about the potential he saw in Kevin's work. We specialize in developing affordable medical devices and treatment protocols for underserved communities. Your research on natural interventions for infant colic is precisely the kind of innovation we're looking for. Marcus paused, watching Kevin's reaction carefully before continuing. I have a proposition for you, Kevin. Regardless of how you perform at the National Science Fair, I want to offer you an internship position with my company. We'll provide full funding for your education, including undergraduate and graduate studies, in exchange for your commitment to continue developing practical medical solutions for families who need them most. But before you hear Kevin's response, hit that like this video button if you believe talent can come from anywhere, and tell me in the comments what you think Kevin should do in this situation. Kevin stared at Marcus in complete shock, trying to process the magnitude of what was being offered. Mr. Thompson, are you serious? You're offering to pay for my entire education just based on meeting me on an airplane? Marcus smiled, recognizing the disbelief in Kevin's voice as similar to his own reaction when he had first encountered opportunities that seemed too good to be true. But what happened next would reveal why this offer was about much more than just educational funding, and how Kevin's response would demonstrate the character that had impressed Marcus from the very beginning. Kevin, I'm completely serious about this offer, Marcus said firmly, his executive experience evident in the confidence of his proposal. In my 20 years of business experience, I've learned to recognize exceptional talent quickly. What you've accomplished with limited resources, combined with your practical research skills and genuine compassion, is exactly what the medical field needs more of. Kevin sat quietly for several moments, clearly overwhelmed by the implications of Marcus's offer. Mr. Thompson, this is incredibly generous, but I need to ask you something important. What would you expect from me in return? I don't want to accept charity. I want to earn whatever opportunities come my way. Marcus felt his respect for Kevin increase even more as he recognized the pride and integrity behind this response. This isn't charity, Kevin, Marcus explained carefully. This is an investment in someone with exceptional potential. In exchange for educational funding, you would work with our research team during summers and school breaks, helping us develop affordable medical solutions for communities like yours. You would also commit to using your education to benefit underserved populations, rather than just pursuing personal wealth. Kevin's expression showed he was seriously considering the offer, but Marcus could see that the teenager was also wrestling with concerns about accepting help from someone he had just met. I need to discuss this with my family, Kevin said thoughtfully. This decision would affect not just me, but everyone who invested in my trip to Miami. I want to make sure I'm making the right choice for the right reasons. Marcus was impressed by Kevin's maturity and consideration for others, qualities that confirmed his initial assessment of the young man's character. Of course you should discuss this with your family, Marcus agreed. In fact, I'd like to meet them and explain the program in detail. I want everyone to understand exactly what this opportunity involves and what we hope to accomplish together. But what neither Marcus nor Kevin realized was that their conversation was being overheard by other passengers, and word of this remarkable encounter was about to spread in ways that would create opportunities neither of them had imagined. As their conversation continued, other passengers in the first-class cabin began to take notice of the extraordinary interaction happening between Marcus and Kevin. The elderly woman in seat 2B, who had been annoyed by Lily's crying earlier, was now listening intently to their discussion about medical research and educational opportunities. The businessman across the aisle had stopped working entirely and was openly eavesdropping on their conversation. "Excuse me," said the elderly woman, introducing herself as Margaret Foster. "I couldn't help but overhear your conversation, and I want you both to know that what I've witnessed here today is remarkable." She looked directly at Kevin with obvious admiration. "Young man, your knowledge and compassion are extraordinary, and Mr. Thompson, your recognition of talent is exactly what this world needs more of." Margaret Foster pulled out her business card and handed it to Kevin. "I'm the Dean of Pediatric Medicine at University of Miami. If you're serious about pursuing medical research, I want to discuss how our program could support your goals." Kevin stared at the business card in amazement, realizing that this chance encounter was creating opportunities beyond anything he had imagined possible. The businessman across the aisle introduced himself as Dr. Robert Chen, a pediatric specialist from Los Angeles. "Kevin, I've been practicing pediatric medicine for 15 years, and your explanation of colic treatment was more insightful than presentations I've heard from medical school graduates. I would love to review your research and potentially collaborate on publishing your findings." Kevin felt overwhelmed as he realized that this airplane conversation was connecting him with multiple medical professionals who were impressed by his work. Marcus watched with satisfaction as he saw Kevin's potential being recognized by others, confirming his own assessment of the young man's exceptional abilities. But what happened next would reveal just how much this encounter was going to impact both their futures. As the plane began its descent toward Miami, Kevin and Marcus exchanged contact information and made plans to continue their conversation after the science fair competition. "Kevin, I want you to focus completely on your presentation," Marcus said. "Don't worry about our discussion or any decisions right now. Just concentrate on showing the judges why your research deserves national recognition." Kevin felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness as he thought about the competition that would begin the next day. "Mr. Thompson, meeting you and having the chance to help with Lily has already made this trip more meaningful than I expected. Whatever happens at the science fair, I'm grateful for this conversation and the opportunities you've presented." Marcus was struck by Kevin's humility and focus on the immediate challenge ahead. "Kevin, I have a good feeling about your chances at the competition. Your research is groundbreaking, your presentation skills are excellent, and your passion for helping others comes through in everything you say. The judges would be crazy not to recognize your potential." As they prepared to land, Marcus made a decision that would surprise Kevin. "I'm going to attend your presentation at the science fair tomorrow. I want to see you in action and support you during this important moment." Kevin looked shocked but pleased by this unexpected show of support from his new mentor. The plane touched down in Miami, and as passengers began gathering their belongings, Kevin carefully packed his research materials, while Marcus organized Lily's supplies. Neither of them knew that their encounter on Flight 785 was about to become a story that would inspire thousands of people and create ripple effects that would extend far beyond their individual lives. The next morning at the Miami Convention Center, Kevin stood before a panel of 5 judges presenting his research on natural interventions for infant colic. His presentation was polished, professional, and passionate as he explained his methodology, documented his findings, and demonstrated the practical applications of his techniques. Marcus sat in the audience, watching with pride as Kevin fielded complex questions from medical professionals with confidence and expertise. "Mr. Johnson, your research addresses a significant gap in affordable pediatric care," said Dr. Patricia Williams, the lead judge. "Your community-based approach and impressive success rate suggest that your findings could have widespread applications. Can you explain how you would scale this intervention for broader implementation?" Kevin's response was thorough and well thought out, demonstrating not just scientific knowledge but also an understanding of healthcare systems and community health challenges. "The beauty of this approach is its simplicity and accessibility. I envision training programs for parents, community health workers, and pediatric nurses that could be implemented in underserved areas worldwide." When Kevin finished his presentation, the audience erupted in enthusiastic applause. Marcus could see the impressed expressions on the judges' faces and knew that Kevin had delivered exactly the kind of presentation that wins national competitions. Several other participants and their families approached Kevin afterward to learn more about his research and congratulate him on his presentation. That evening, at the awards ceremony, Kevin's name was announced as the first-place winner of the National Science Fair Championship. As he walked across the stage to accept his award and full scholarship to any university of his choice, Marcus felt an overwhelming sense of pride and satisfaction, knowing that he had been part of Kevin's journey to this moment. But the real celebration was yet to come, as Kevin's victory would open doors that neither he nor Marcus had anticipated, and their partnership would begin to create the kind of impact they had both dreamed of achieving. 3 months later, Kevin was enrolled at Stanford University with a full scholarship, majoring in biomedical engineering with a focus on pediatric medicine. During his first semester, he continued working with Marcus's company as a research consultant, helping to develop affordable medical devices for underserved communities. Their first collaborative project was creating a portable training kit for Kevin's colic treatment techniques that could be distributed to community health centers worldwide. Kevin's research had been published in the Journal of Pediatric Medicine, with Dr. Sarah Martinez and Dr. Robert Chen as co-authors. The publication brought national attention to the potential of community-based medical research and the importance of supporting young innovators from diverse backgrounds. Kevin became a spokesperson for accessible healthcare solutions and inspired other young people to pursue medical research careers. Marcus's company, Thompson Medical Technologies, established the Kevin Johnson Innovation Fellowship, providing full educational funding and mentorship opportunities for students from underserved communities who wanted to pursue careers in medical research. The program received applications from hundreds of brilliant young people whose potential had been overlooked by traditional educational systems. The story of their meeting on Flight 785 became a viral sensation when Marcus shared it during a keynote speech at a medical technology conference. The video of his presentation received over 2 million views, inspiring countless people to look beyond appearances and recognize talent wherever it might be found. Kevin and Marcus were invited to speak at universities, medical conferences, and community organizations about the importance of mentorship and opportunity. Kevin's family in Detroit became local celebrities as their neighborhood's investment in his education paid off beyond anyone's wildest dreams. The community fund that had raised money for his science fair trip was transformed into a permanent scholarship program for other promising students. Kevin returned to Detroit regularly to mentor young people and demonstrate that extraordinary success could emerge from the most unlikely circumstances. As I finish this incredible story, Kevin and Marcus's partnership continues to create innovative solutions that help families around the world access affordable medical care. Their work proves that sometimes the most important opportunities come from unexpected moments of human connection and the willingness to help a stranger in need. What started as a desperate father trying to calm his crying baby on an airplane became a life-changing encounter that created opportunities neither man could have imagined. Kevin's compassion and expertise not only solved Marcus's immediate problem, but revealed the kind of brilliant potential that exists in communities everywhere, waiting for recognition and support. This story reminds us that talent, compassion, and intelligence aren't determined by wealth or background. Sometimes the person who can solve your biggest problem is the one you least expect. Kevin's willingness to help a stranger, combined with Marcus's ability to recognize exceptional potential, created a partnership that continues to benefit thousands of families worldwide. If this story touched your heart like it touched mine, please share it with someone who needs to hear about the power of unexpected kindness and opportunity. Leave a comment telling me about a time when someone surprised you with their talents or when you helped a stranger in need. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more incredible true stories that prove ordinary moments can create extraordinary change. The next time you encounter someone who offers help in an unexpected way, remember Kevin and Marcus. You never know when a single act of compassion might change two lives forever and create ripples of positive impact that extend far beyond that initial moment of connection.